to really grow in your faith in a remarkable way, camp offers the opportunity to say, I can't do it anymore. I have nothing left. God, you have to do it. And that is where I think we grow in our faith the most.
We have the fun so we can make the friends so we can talk about Jesus. And that's what camp's all about.
Hi, my name is Ethan Wood. Welcome to the Camp Victory YouTube page. I am here with Emmarie Coach Moon and Sam Kick Smith, and we're here today to talk about summer camp and what that looks like. And for the people out there who are interested in working at it, we are going to answer a couple questions that we hear from our summer staff every single year. All right, so the first question I want to ask you guys, I want to add some value to the conversation really, really fast. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone as they're looking for a summer job right now? Not necessarily just at a summer camp, but just in general. For example, like what types of experiences are good for people from your eyes as someone who hires applicants? For teens and college students, what is one thing that they should be working on, growing in as they are applying for jobs in 2025?
I'm going to take this one just on behalf of Coach. One of the things you should be working on is your communication through email and phone calls. Some of those things are great ways to make an incredible first impression with the boss, whether it's us at camp or at Chick-fil-A or wherever you guys want to work. Making sure that you have correct grammar, you have a little sincerely at the bottom with your name and contact information. Just ways that help you look professional, using full sentences and capital letters and all that kind of stuff. Helps put you guys, weirdly enough, just by doing something like that, above the rest. So, yeah, that's something I would encourage. Just a simple thing for anybody. But we kind of look for a number of different things. What do you look for, Coach?
Well, okay, I think I might need you to rephrase this question for me, because when we talked about this before we started, I think I had a different answer in mind. But when you read the question, it was it actually brought to mind, like, it was kind of like, what kind of experience do you think people in this age group should look for, right?
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, the first thing that came to my mind actually was something that's going to give you memories and stories for later. Like, I mean, we're in our late 20s.
Yeah.
And looking back on college years, I have some friends who worked jobs, that gave them a lot of money, and that's great when you're a student and you're looking at student debt. But realistically, be responsible with your money. I'm not saying don't do that, but you can make money when you graduate college, but those years that you have, summers in college, are there to make memories and have fun and do some crazy stuff. And I think when I just flash back to college, I have no regret of making such little money, because I have so much history with the summers that I spent in between my summers of school. And my brother worked a factory job and made way more money than me, but like, I had a lot more fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, that's the thing is, we left, you and I both worked at summer camp in the summers, and we didn't leave financially rich, but we were investing in like a memory bank almost.
Yeah.
Like,
and relationships.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I got friends that I have a group chat of people I was on staff with in 2017.
I have friends from 2011 I still talk to, like, regularly, which is insane.
See, that's cool.
Yeah. And back when I was 16, like, who would have thought 15, no, not that long, that many, but 14 years later, like, I'd have that many people that I was still really good friends with.
Yeah, so I think when you just asked that question, I was like, like this memory and story building years of, summers between high school and college, like the lore of my life comes from that.
Camp is a great place to collect lore.
Yeah.
Honestly. And you forget that the job application isn't so you get the job, or like so that the interviewees can find out if you're good for the job. You also need to take the application process and the interview process as an opportunity to go, is this the right job for me? Like, you can't just like putting yourself under that much pressure to have like the right job, the right thing figured out, the right stuff. Like, I'll take this with a grain of salt, everybody. Guess what degree I have? I have a 4-year Bachelor of Arts in Geology, which I am not really using except to tell kids what a quartzaronite is. When they come up to me and they find cool hematite or whatever at camp. Very fun stuff. But I as a 16, 17-year-old, joked about being a summer camp director, and I'm living the dream by doing it the wrong way. I got the wrong degree. I did the wrong job first. I worked at the the rival camp to the one I grew up going to, and then I'm working at a third camp and having an incredible opportunity to be the program director. Like, the Lord will work in ways that you don't even expect to put you where he needs you in order to build his kingdom. And so stop focusing on what you need to do, but focus on who you need to be. And then that will put you in a position to be used by the Lord and find fulfilling work.
I would say too, to go off of that, that's really what I look for in the interview process, is less what experience is this applicant bringing to the table and more what attitude is this applicant bringing to the table.
Yeah.
So I can work with zero experience working with kids. I can teach that, but I can't teach somebody who's unteachable. So if somebody comes in and says, I have no experience working with kids, but I'd really like to be a counselor, teach me everything there is to know, that's way more hireable to me than someone who has been a babysitter for 10 years but has a really bad attitude. So somebody who's teachable can really fit into any job. And I think that kind of goes off of what you were saying. Like, you have a degree in geology and you're a camp director. So if you come in saying, you know, I don't necessarily have XYZ criteria, but I'm willing to be taught that, there's a lot to be said for that.
Well, and camp is a unique place to do that. And at any other job, you're going to be expected to have a certain level of experience. And camp is a great place to learn and grow and have your first job, because then you can gain what you need, essentially.
And at the same time, camp teaches you a lot of soft skills that every job will look for. So regardless of whether you need to work in a hospital or you're an engineer or you're going to be a teacher, if you can be a leader and communicate well and solve conflict, those are the kinds of skills that all employers are looking for across the job board.
I've gotten some of my jobs, like I worked at a food plant and I was a teacher, and I've done a couple of things. I've gotten those jobs because I worked at camp, and they were outside of my typical resume, but because camp made me adaptable and teachable, I was in a position to do those, which was really cool.
And it gives you experiences where you can say, here's a story of a time I used XYZ skill.
Absolutely.
That was the question I was going to ask, actually, was camp teaches you a lot of soft skills, but it doesn't teach you the technical skills. People today say that you need to know all these technical skills in order to get a job, but you guys are actually saying the opposite, that those soft skills are the thing that gets you those technical jobs in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're pursuing a 4-year degree in, I'm going to pick on engineers because they get all of that training in school.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you're pursuing an electrical engineering degree, you're getting the technical skills in school. That's what you're going to school for. But where else are you picking up the communication between different departments that you're going to need to use? Where are you picking up the teamwork that you're going to have to use when you're on a team of other engineers in an actual job? Where are you picking those things up? Well, camp is a great place to do that.
Yeah, or how do you dumb down the technical information as an engineer to one of your clients that doesn't necessarily understand what you're talking about? Or I even like the example of a lot of people that I know who've gotten their masters in divinity. They've essentially gotten pastor's degrees and learned all of this stuff, got all of the book smarts, and then they came and realized that they now had to shepherd a flock and had no experience with real human beings and didn't know how to talk to them in ways that weren't super theologically deep. And so having an opportunity to camp is a great opportunity where you can learn a number of soft skills. And I even think the tenacity that you get at camp of, in my brain, I go, I don't know how to do that, but I know I can figure it out. Like, I have that tool in my toolbox of like, I'm stubborn enough and I'm smart enough that I can sit here and figure out how to do this. And I don't have to go, I don't have experience in that. I just dive in and go, we're going to figure it out. I'm going to ask questions and see if I can find people who know a little bit better than I do about this particular thing. But that I now have this ability to go, you know what? Yeah, I don't have any experience in that, but I didn't have any experience in cleaning bathrooms or dealing with a homesick camper or dealing with roommate drama or something at camp, or all sorts of things you have the opportunity to deal with and to grow in that then is super applicable to literally anywhere else in your life.
Well, moving into a hot topic that most people come to camp and that's their primary concern is the pay. Especially as a college student trying to pay for college, that might be one of their top priorities, is making enough money so that they can actually pay for their college, or even as a high school student, having enough so they can pay the expenses of 9 months of school when they may or may not get to work. So at camp, not necessarily talking about the pay structure, but how can you actually make enough money to live off of after camp? Is that even feasible? What does that look like working at a summer camp?
I'm going to start on the spiritual end of this conversation and then get to some more practical
I like that.
application.
That's
Thank
good.
you. I think we often look at certain areas of our life and say, God will provide. And we have a tendency to look at finances, specifically with college debt and paying for college things, and saying, I have to make this work there. And I think that we make God very small and say, well, God wants me to work at camp this summer, but I can't see how that's going to financially work, so I won't do that. Instead of allowing God to move in a way that would show us he's going to financially provide in some way. And we have a hard time not seeing the end result of that and still stepping out in faith anyway. But I have told multiple college students, like, if you really feel like God is calling you to camp, give God a chance to provide for you, because he wouldn't provide the call, but not a way to do that. So I think trusting God to provide financially, and I'm not saying that in a flippant way, I really do mean that. On the flip side of that, I think there's a lot of expenses that we forget to look at. Life costs money. And yes, we're looking at making enough money to support college, but when we look at the bottom line of I work as a camp counselor, this is what I'm getting paid, versus I'm going to work an internship and this is what I'm going to get paid, we don't look at what will it also cost me to do that job. So if I stay in my college town and I stay in my college house and I pay utilities and rent and Wi-Fi and gas to drive to and from work, those are all expenses that come out of what I'm making. You don't pay any of those at camp. So yes, you're making less money, but you're also spending less money. And so if you do a budget breakdown, I'm not going to lie and say that it's a perfect even match, but it is genuinely comparable to say, I'm not paying rent, I'm not paying groceries, I'm not paying Wi-Fi, I'm not paying utilities, I don't have to drive to work. Camp feeds you, so you don't have to go out to eat with your friends. Actually, you can't, because we keep you here on property all week anyway.
Well,
I mean, the weekends are great opportunities for that, but you're making less money, you're spending less money. So I think if people really do a budget breakdown, it's not as big of a gap as we think it is.
Oh yeah.
You have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, we had one of our summer staff a couple of years ago talk about how she literally worked. I don't know why I keep talking about Chick-fil-A, but she literally worked at Chick-fil-A for a summer, and she made more money.
Chipotle.
Chipotle.
I know who you're talking about. It was Chipotle.
She worked. I'm sorry.
Same thing.
She worked at Chipotle, and she had more money come through her bank account. Right. She essentially made more money at Chipotle, but she spent more money. So she was out with friends, buying just meals or other things and that kind of stuff, and doing things while she wasn't working at camp. And then while she was working at camp, she put more money in. She put less money in the bank, but at the end of the summer, she had more money than she did the other summer, working full time at Chipotle. And I mean, Coach was kind of alluding to it, but we pay you with food and we pay you with experiences. And when you guys are here on the weekends, you can grab your friend who's a lifeguard and go down the river and go tubing, or you guys can, if you're certified from training, you guys can use our high ropes course or some other things and stuff
for
during
free.
your free time. For free, you guys can do a number of really fun things and do a ton of stuff with your friends. And we're feeding you breakfast, lunch, dinner, and some of our summer staff don't even take advantage of it. We'll feed you on the weekends. Like, you don't have to go out and get food. Obviously, it tastes good, and you kind of need a little bit of a break from some of the summer food and stuff anyway. But you could really take advantage of the whole summer and just do everything at camp, and put a ton of money in the bank, relative to some of your friends who are going to be getting more, but probably spending more. So it's something you kind of have to take into account in terms of your own kind of ability and kind of your own ways of keeping track of how you're spending your money.
Well, and I'll be super transparent. I've had college students who are able to live at home ask me to financially compare, and I just can't. Like, you can't financially compare. I live with my parents. I'm not paying rent. I'm not paying utilities. I'm not paying for literally anything except gas to work and then my job. It doesn't financially compare. There are plenty of other ways that I can convince you why camp is the better choice, but not financially with you living with your parents.
Yeah.
That is totally fair. I think it's such a misconception, especially with the spiritual side of things, that a job is all about the money. Like there are just so many other benefits of working at a summer camp that we don't even consider. So I appreciate you guys talking about that as well. The next thing I want to talk about is the impact. That's a huge part of working at a camp, is the impact that you have on kids, that you have on other staff, the discipleship that happens there at Camp Victory. We have the slogan, come disciple, be discipled. So I want to get into that in a minute, but first I want to take a break so we can check the cameras. So we will be right back.
Sweet.
All right, so the next topic that I actually want to get into before we talk about the impact is actually the practicality of working at a camp. What does the day-to-day life of a counselor really look like? I've had people come up to me in the past. I've worked at a camp for the last 2 or 3 summers, and I've had people come up to me in the past and ask me questions like, what does it look like to live here? What does it look like to stay here all year round, honestly, at this point, now that I'm a full-time staff. But people are always concerned by the fact that we require our counselors to stay on property all week long. They're like, wait, I can't leave in the evenings? That's so weird. And I get that, because at first glance, that seems really weird. But in reality, there is a huge purpose behind that. There is something a lot deeper that's happening that we don't even know, and I didn't realize until I worked here for a whole summer. So I would love if one of you or both of you could comment on that. What does the day-to-day of a counselor look like? Maybe addressing some of the concerns of what does it look like to live in a cabin with other campers, with other staff, and just the housing quality as well, what that looks like, and then how that's actually really good for them as people.
Well, first off, I think we want to let you guys know that whether you work at our camp or you work at another one, there's not every job is going to be a camp counselor job, like that you're going to be with campers 24/7 during the week of camp. So if you're looking for another position, whether it's activities or we have pros, they're kind of the same thing, but they help support the summer camp program, or working in the kitchen, or volunteering as a nurse, or all sorts of things that you guys can be involved in camp at, ways you can be involved in camp that don't require you to be with campers 24/7. But being with campers 24/7 is one of the most difficult, but one of the most rewarding pieces of being a part of a summer camp experience. I loved having the opportunity to be with, like when I was on summer staff at another camp long ago, loved the opportunity to be with my 10 boys and another counselor, just like hanging out, talking about life, talking about sports, talking about their relationship with Jesus, and the things that we have been learning about during summer camp, as well as their own experiences with the ways that they experienced the Lord. It is a little bit difficult to kind of adjust to if you're not used to it. I had a sibling growing up, so it was a little bit easier to share space with people, but you wake up and your campers are there. You go take a shower and you change into your fresh clothes and your campers are there. You bring your kids down to go get their evening or morning medications or whatever for the day, and they're just there. They're there all the time. And not only are your campers learning about the gospel and the ways that the Lord loves them from the chapel speakers and the Bible times and the verse times, but they're learning it from you. They're learning it from the ways you interact with them, the ways you get excited about games, the ways and the things and the conversations that you guys have with them. And it's tiring and can be exhausting, but it can be one of the coolest and most fulfilling weeks that you do, whether it's just for one or for every single week. I even think particularly about some of campers I've had in the past who were particularly testing of my patience. And then by the end, they were hugging me goodbye as their parents were picking them up and saying that they were going to miss me. And I just like broke down crying because I was like, you little punk, all week. And yet here you are, you're the one who got the most out of it this week, because I was with you the whole time. And because my patience was being tested and I was struggling, but like adjusting my attitude and loving on this camper and trying to do what I could, the best I could for this camper, was so impactful for them. And then it impacted me probably more. And just seeing how the Lord works in strange ways. I love how the Lord flips our expectations upside down and helps us when we don't expect it.
I think on a spiritual level, we were talking about this at Bible study last night. We were made for community. We were made to live with each other and to not live alone. And I think that we're sometimes good about doing that when it's easy. and we skip out when it's hard. And part of the beauty of camp is you're sort of forced to deal with the hard, which is part of the reason that camp relationships are so strong. Because when you live with somebody who is constantly not taking care of their dirty clothes and leaving them on the floor, and you have to talk to them about that, that's a life skill that people don't want to develop, but they want to have. And that is how you develop healthy communication in conflict management, by being like, hey man, you left your socks on the floor the 7th time this week. How are we going to deal with that? You know,
you don't just wake up being the person you want to be. You have to practice being the person you want to be.
Well, and you know, in college, you live with roommates, you live on a floor with other people, you live in a house with other people. When you're married and have kids, you're living with people, and camp is a good place to practice the skills of the hard work of living in community. And I think it is beautifully hard, and it's something that we sometimes forget.
Emmarie was just reminding me that some of the reason why I have friends from 2011 was because while you're at camp, you get to experience some of the highest highs you have, like that experience I had with that camper that was like, wow, what an he had an incredible week, and I was just blown away by that. But you also experience some lows, like you'll be really tired and really exhausted, and instead of kind of sheltering yourself or pulling yourself away, as much as it's a little bit scary to be in those with other people and in those places where you are low and people are seeing you that way, that's where those real relationships start. The supporting and loving on each other when you are feeling low, and realizing that we're built for community and we're stronger together. We're stronger when we support each other. We're stronger when we pray for each other. We're stronger when we're honest with each other and where we're at. But you do have to develop to get the benefit of those relationships and get the joy out of that. You have to engage in some things that are uncomfortable in order to gain the best parts about it. You think about like eventually for some of you guys, you think about roommate conversations, like, hey dude, don't use my toothbrush. Like you could passive aggressively just get a different toothbrush and hide it or whatever while your roommate continues to use your toothbrush. But like, if you have that conversation of like, dude, why do you use this toothbrush or whatever? And your roommate goes, I don't know, I never bought one. There's just always one around, like that's, but I don't know, it's a silly thing, but being able to engage in those conversations, puts you in a better place to have real conversations too. By doing the silly things, then you can have real conversations about where people are with the Lord and where they are with the relationships and other things.
Even on a spiritual level, it's not Christ-like to harbor anger towards someone for doing something that you don't like them doing, and then that anger grows to resentment. And camp gives you a really good opportunity to have to deal with that, because these people are in your space all the time. I even think like my friendship with you and your wife, like if I had kept all of my barriers up and not had to be real with you guys, we would not be as close as we are. And that's just full-time camping ministry. Like I don't live with Sam and his wife. Like we just work together, but on a summer staff, it's way more intense.
Oh yeah. Just being honest with each other. Yeah. Opens up opportunity for some real relationships. Not just,
it allows the people around you to fill the gaps where you can't.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but those real relationship happens because you're face to face with people and you're not seeking something else to like fix the problem, like
good segue.
When you go and when you go to your phones and you doom scroll or whatever, instead of actually having a conversation with somebody else about this problem you're having, you put yourself in a worse position because you didn't fix anything. It's just 3 or 4 hours later after you've scrolled through everything, and you're not in a better relationship or better position to actually handle what's going on.
Yeah, I've really liked camp because you are raw. Like you can't curate who you are to other people. You can't perfect a text. You can't perfect a photo. Yeah. You are who you are, and you come here as you are, and then you realize all of those flaws all at the same time, and then you get to work on all of them.
You can hide it for like a little bit, and then eventually it comes leaking right out.
Well, that, and you realize other people still love you when your mistakes come out. You go, what do you mean? I just messed this up. And they go, well, yeah, but you took responsibility for it and you're trying to fix it. Like, I'm going to come alongside you and help you try to fix it. Like,
they're like, I did that too.
Yeah, I did that last summer. I did that last week. I did that 5 minutes ago. Oh, you did that too? It's like, it's just a cool place to be.
On a practical level too, being in a cabin with kids, if you want to be a teacher, this is a great job to figure out whether or
Mm.
not you actually want to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you can take the classes in college, but when you're surrounded by kids 24/7 and you have to discipline them and put up with the same song for the 30,000th time,
Mhm.
like, do you have the capacity to do that? And even as a parent, you know, when you're a counselor, you don't get to decide, I'm sick of you, I'm walking away. You're stuck with those kids for the week.
Mm.
And that's what parenting is like too. And it's a really good litmus test for, do I really want that with my life? And can
Yeah.
I develop the tenacity to be able to do that?
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I guess not having to segue too hard, I really thought we were going to have to switch gears, but along those lines, what kind of impact do counselors make on campers? Because that's probably one of the
Yeah.
biggest reasons people come here is because they've had some sort of calling or they've had some interest in this for a while. For me, my parents were camp counselors and they told me all about it. And I was like, I
Yeah.
want to make an impact like that. What does that impact look like practically? And maybe what are some things people don't always consider when they're coming to work at a summer camp?
Yeah.
I'll let you think. Well, I was
You s-
I was waiting for
I'm
you to
gonna
start, but
think.
you looked
I'm
like you were
thinking.
thinking.
I got.
So I'll go back to my own experience with camp. I started, I wouldn't say working at camp, but I started spending time at camp when I was 3. My mom was a camp speaker at a camp in central Michigan, and I was there as a volunteer once a week or 1 week every summer until I was 18 on staff. And my mom was a speaker for the Camp for Adults with Special Needs, and I spent 1 week with those people every summer, and they remembered me summer to summer. So just growing up with those people, when I was in high school, one of them actually attended some of my swim meets and came to watch me play water polo. And again, I only spent 1 week out of 52 weeks with these people, but they knew me, they watched me grow up, they loved me. So to have that kind of relationship is really special. I grew up going to summer camp at a different camp. I could tell you the name of every single counselor that I had, and I could pinpoint specific conversations that I had with them. So as a kid myself, my counselors had an impact on me, and my experience at camp had an impact, and I wanted to create that, or yeah, I wanted to live that experience as an adult too. So I think it's crazy when you look at practically 1 week out of 52 really shouldn't have that big of an effect on somebody, but because camp is so intense and so powerful and God really creates such a special place here, we really have such a cool opportunity to create lifelong memories, impactful moments for campers that staff get to be a part of, and you get to not manufacture them, but you get to kind of facilitate that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And that's priceless.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. Emmarie just reminding me of some of the reason why I'm here. Kind of roots back to the 1 week of camp I got to be a camper back at Camp Chaminade. Shout out. But back at Camp Chaminade in 2008, I was going into 7th grade, and I was a camper. I just was a camper. Didn't know anybody in my cabin. Didn't go with any friends. I was homesick all week, and my counselors, Mitch Aarons and Ethan Anderson, were just awesome. Just hung out with me, checked in with me. I spent some time in the nurse's office because I hadn't had enough water, so I was a little bit dehydrated. But like Mitch just kind of took me under his wing that week. Taught me how to do some archery stuff, and he'd gotten permission to figure out how to do flaming arrows for their final day of archery skills class, which was really fun. And then Mitch took me out during free time and had me help him try to figure out how to use flaming arrows. So it was like we took like socks and dipped them in kerosene and took marshmallows and tried to light them on fire and tried to figure out different ways we could get like the fire
Do
to
not try
light
that at
up.
home.
No, don't try it at home. Yeah, we tried all sorts of fun stuff, but just that Mitch spent a lot of time with me that week, just hanging out. We ended up having some different conversations too about like assurance of salvation and some different pieces of First John and Romans, which was really impactful for me. But the time that Mitch spent with me, particularly Mitch that week, impacted me a lot. He actually had was having a conversation with one of the campers in my cabin about, because he was about to age out of like the age group. We'd call them the Voyagers. We would call them explorers here. Was about to age out of being a Voyager. And so he was talking about next steps of like you can be in the SWAT or CIT program. And so I was like, I'm going to do that when I'm old enough. And I came back and I had this incredible opportunity to hang out with a coordinator named Randy, who coordinated the summer missions team or whatever with the summer what are we called SWAT? Students with a task? Something with a task. I don't know. But we cleaned bathrooms and Randy was awesome and we played Disney music and like put wakeboard jumps in the lake and built decks and all sorts of crazy stuff. But I loved those opportunities to learn and grow and to be impacted by those people. And so then when I wanted to come work at camp, I wanted to do the same thing that they'd done for me, just to enjoy and invest in and to have a ton of opportunities to live and pour out the love of Christ that had been poured into me, and do that practically on a day-to-day basis with our summer staff and hopefully our campers too. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. What you're
Okay.
describing is relationship building with eventually having those gospel conversations, which is
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really cool. That's like the whole reason we do what we do here
Oh, yeah.
is to build relationships and then hopefully through that inspire people to trust and treasure Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So that's just really, really cool to hear the stories behind what head knowledge we have about how to do our jobs well, I guess.
Yeah. Camp is fun. So we can have experiences together, which builds opportunities to make friends. And then those relationships and those conversations you have from friends leads to faith conversations. And so we have the fun so we can make the friends so we can talk about Jesus. And that's what camp's all about.
The other thing too is that to go to the disciple be discipled, like in order to pour out into campers, I always tell staff who ask me, why should I stay more than 2-3 weeks? You can do 2 to 3 weeks of camp on your own energy.
Absolutely.
You can have hard conversations. You can do hard things. When you hit weeks 4 and 5 of I haven't slept enough and these campers are getting really hard, that is when you hit your knees and you're like, God, I can't do this. And that is where, we disciple our staff on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Like that is a goal that we have. But
Yeah.
to really grow in your faith in a remarkable way, camp offers the opportunity to say, I can't do it anymore. I have nothing left. God, you have to do it. And that is where I think we grow in our faith the most. And to just have 3-4 weeks at camp where you're running on what feels like empty, but is coming out as completely full to your campers is just a cool way to see God work.
Yeah, it's amazing too when you hit those 4 and 5 weeks and you really surrender it to the Lord, that He shows up better than you ever could during those first 3 weeks too, and that's life changing too. Of going like, hold up, why is this one of the best weeks of the summer and feels like I'm running on fumes, but like everything is just showing up because you gave it to the Lord. And
You got out of the way.
He took it on. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when we let Him do His thing.
I think what you guys just said is probably like the root of what we're trying to tell people right now. That was really, really cool. Oh man. Okay. Anyways, switching gears. The last thing I want to talk about is phones because we probably should talk about that. That's something that people watching probably have questions about. Working at a summer camp, we encourage relationships, and to be honest, phones don't help us in that regard. They
Not
don't
at camp,
push
for sure.
us. Yes, phones don't really have a place at camp.
Put you at a
And
disadvantage.
the world is changing, policies change. We're trying to figure it out. What would you guys tell people, 16 to 22-year-olds, hopefully on the other side of this camera, who may have questions about that or concerns? What would you tell them?
So my first summer at camp, I was allowed to have my phone on me, and I actually remember checking it in the bathroom, like between, so my I wasn't allowed to have my phone out in front of my campers, so I would check it in the bathroom, and I remember thinking that like that was how I was going to stay connected to people. And my next 3 summers at camp, we were not allowed to have our phones at all, and I locked it in a closet for the entire week. And as a camp director, I wish I could lock my phone in a closet for the entire week. Like the freedom that comes with not having any obligation to respond to people because you're literally not allowed to, and not being required to know trends or be aware of things that you don't really need to be aware of. I really can't explain the freedom of that. You don't really get it unless you experience it, which
Unless you
is
actually do
why
it.
we try to have our staff experience it.
Yeah.
So in a few summers ago, we started with 1 week of phone turn in, and we had 2 people out of 80 say that they didn't like it, and everyone else said they loved it. And we
Mm.
are moving confidently in the direction of phone confiscation for the entire week because we feel that it produces better relationship. Instead of people scrolling
Yeah.
at night in the evening trying to catch up on things, they're investing in the relationships around them.
Yep.
I really do believe that our generations have a phone addiction problem, and with no other substance addiction would you put it in front of someone and say don't touch that, but we do that with phones. So I think that being at camp and having to physically turn your phone in is a really cool way to break that addiction and obsession with our phones.
Yeah.
And we are just really excited about the ways that we've seen relationships thrive and grow because of that, I think. And that's why campers grow so close together too. I've had campers comment on, we loved not having our phones with us. I don't think
Yeah.
campers would choose to make that choice for themselves,
Mhm.
but they're grateful that they are forced to.
Yeah, I think I even think about and maybe an example to put yourselves in some shoes of somebody else. Imagine you guys have been hired at camp. I know you're on your phones right now. You're looking at it right now. But imagine you've
Got
been
'em.
hired at camp. Don't throw your phones away yet. You need to finish this video. But imagine you've been hired at camp and you've made a new friend, and you guys have the same break during the week. So you guys have 2 hours together. You're in the staff lounge, and you're allowed to have your phones during this particular week. And you guys are having a really cool conversation about the conversation is maybe a conversation you have with the camper. One of your campers really enjoyed the story we're talking about Joseph today, and talking about how his brothers beat him and threw him in a pit, and but that Joseph eventually, how many years later, forgave his brothers for what they had done to him. Um, but amidst that, your phone's on the table in front of you, and you get a little ding, and then you flip your phone over, and you got a notification that your T-shirt or something from Amazon has just shipped. Now, you've interrupted that conversation. So put yourself in the eyes of maybe your other friend. You've interrupted that conversation with something that does not matter. Now your brain is going, oh, I'm going to get to wear that T-shirt when it comes in 2 days. And you've interrupted the conversation. You kind of snubbed it. And now you either have to pick back up and kind of go somewhere else, or maybe your brain is completely onto this T-shirt and go, oh, I got to show you this T-shirt because they're your new buddy or whatever. And you've stunted the conversation and the direction that conversation is happening. What we're trying to do is not only that's maybe what we're trying to do is to put you guys in a position where you can genuinely have conversations and not be interrupted by what the outside world is doing. Because at the end of the day, or at the end of the week or the end of the summer, those things don't really change what's happening for you during the week. In fact, they're just little distractions that take away from the value and the investment that you have into the week. And so that's not to say we're going to take your phones away and you're not allowed to talk to anybody ever, and we're going to keep you in little jail cells and you're going to run around with kids. We still want you guys, if you need to be able to like talk to your parents or there's an emergency or whatever, we're going to make sure that you guys have Camp Victory's number that you can give to your parents. And if they need to call you for an emergency, they can get a hold of the office. We can get a hold of you guys via our radios or other things like that. And so it's not like we're going to cut you guys completely off of the outside world if need be.
Well, this is all the time that we have today, but thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you so much for this discussion. This has been really, really good. We also just wanted to plug our camp real fast because we are all full-time staff and we do all work at a camp. So if you are a summer staff on the other end, we want to maybe give you guys a starting place and where to look if you're looking for a summer job. Our camp is called Camp Victory Ministries. We are a summer camp located in Zumbro Falls, Minnesota, right outside of Rochester. We are a Christian camp, meaning that we inspire people to trust and treasure Jesus Christ. And we do that in a few ways through faith, friends, and fun. If you are looking for a summer job, if you are looking to be a camper at a summer camp, or if you are a parent wanting your kid to work at a summer camp, you know where to find us. Go check out our website at www.campvictory.com or call us at 507-258-3200. If you are ready to apply, you can also apply online. Our application process is super duper easy. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Feel free to subscribe to our channel and like this video so other people like you can watch it as well. Thank you so much for your time. See you guys later.